So without further ado, let's see how to create an ASP.NET website in Visual Studio 2005. You can work along with me if you like. We'll bring up Visual Studio 2005 from the Start menu. Let's go to All Programs, Microsoft Visual Studio 2005, and then Microsoft Visual Studio 2005 again, and I'll click there. If this is the first time you've used Visual Studio 2005, you'll see this dialog box popping up. It enables you to configure the Visual Studio 2005 development environment depending on whether you are primarily a C# developer, or VB, or J#, or whatever. Now, all the examples we're going to look at are C#, so I'm going to click Visual C# Developer Settings, and then Start Visual Studio. This might take a few seconds to complete. So let me just close Windows Explorer here, and I'll maximize Visual Studio. So what we have here, in the main area, we have a start page. The start page contains various useful bits of information, and also, as you'll see later on, over here on the left-hand side, it displays getting started information, plus a list of recent projects that you might have worked on. I'm just going to close the start page here, and now we'll create a new website. So to create a new website, you go up on the File menu and select New. And as you can see, there are two different options here. If you want to create a Windows application, or a class library, or a console application, then you click on Project. But if you want to create a new website, then obviously you click on Website. The New Website dialog box pops up, and it enables you to create various different types of web application. The main options are ASP.NET Website and ASP.NET Web Service. All the applications we're going to look at in this series are ASP.NET websites. So let me click on that. And if we go to the bottom of the dialog box, you can see the Location dialog box gives you three options: File System, HTTP, or FTP. If you select File System, the new website will be located on the file system on your development computer. When you run the web application, Visual Studio 2005 will automatically start a default web server to host your page. This is great. It means you don't have to have IIS installed on your development computer, which makes life a lot easier for configuring developers' machines. This is the option we're going to choose in a moment. Let's just discuss the other ones first. If you select HTTP, you can develop an IIS website on the local computer or on a remote computer, and Visual Studio will use HTTP to communicate with the target computer. The target computer must have IIS version 5.0 or later, plus ASP.NET 2.0 installed. The third option is FTP. If you select FTP, you can work with websites that are hosted on another server, such as the server for a commercial hosting service. Visual Studio uses FTP, the file transfer protocol, to communicate with the target computer in this situation. So those are the options. We're going to select File System. We'll also select Visual C# as the programming language. We could have chosen Visual Basic or Visual J#. This is Microsoft's Java programming language, but we're going to click on Visual C#. Just to finish off, we have to enter in this text box here the location for our website. So let's enter a suitable directory. I'm going to enter C:\my first website. And then I'm going to click OK. So what we have here is a website containing a single web page. Solution Explorer on the right-hand side displays the file contents of the web folder. If you can't see Solution Explorer, then you can make it visible by selecting View on the menu and then selecting Solution Explorer. So at the moment, in our website, we have a single web page called default.aspx. All web pages in ASP.NET have a .aspx file extension. You might be curious to see what's behind the plus sign, so let's expand that. And you can see there's a corresponding file called default.aspx.cs. We're going to take a good look at this later. Briefly, it's the code behind file for the web page. The web page defines the markup, or the visual appearance for the web page, and the .cs file contains programmatic logic to support the web page. So Visual Studio displays the source for the web page in the main window. Let's take a look at some of the statements in here. The first statement is called a page directive. Now we're going to spend quite a lot of time looking at this later, but just briefly for now, you can see that it defines the code behind page is implemented in C#. The auto event wire up attribute, we'll talk about that later. It's to do with the event model, and we'll see how that works a bit later on. The code file attribute specifies the name of the source file which contains programmatic logic to support this web page. So default.aspx.cs is the code behind file. The last attribute, inherits, well, I'm going to avoid talking about that just for now. We'll see exactly what that means a little bit later on. The next statement in the web page is a document type definition, and it specifies that this is an XHTML web page. XHTML is a tighter version of HTML which complies with XML grammar rules. Inside the web page, well, at the moment it's fairly simple, static HTML. We have an HTML tag and a head tag. We have a title, and that's the end of the head tag. And then the body contains a form element with an interesting attribute called run@server. This is a vital attribute, and we'll explain exactly what it means when we look at the processing model in due course. Now, if you want to, you can edit the HTML markup manually in this web page. You can overtype the title and display something else. For example, my web page. And if you want to, in the div section, you can add HTML elements such as h1. This is my web page. Okay, and if I move to the end of that line, I can add another one, HR. You'll notice as I do this, Visual Studio provides outlining, IntelliSense, to help me choose the elements which are appropriate. You'll also notice it's put a trailing backslash at the end of the HR character element. This is because in XML, every element has to have a closing tag, and this is the easiest way to define both the starting tag and the closing tag together. So that's one way of building up the content in an ASPX page, but thankfully there is an easy way.